the greatest video, but
He's fine.
better than nothing. Let's see, does it look 10 feet tall? Okay, so for the video, first thing we sign in, name, hour, when you started, when you ended, and then the lamp hours, which I'll show you in a little bit. And then the next thing you do is just stare at the scope and try to find the parts of the scope that you know must exist. So where's the light source? Basically follow the light path. Find the light source and then follow its path, and you're gonna find a condenser, you're gonna find a stage with a specimen, you're gonna find objectives, you're gonna find oculars, you're gonna find a camera. Hopefully you're gonna find a camera, otherwise why are you on that scope? Now you hear my true biases. Like, if it doesn't have a camera, is it a scope? Okay, so we're gonna look at this, and these black, big old black things back here, actually I'm gonna also point you guys to her closer, you can see over this. That's a lamp, and the reason I know it's a lamp is because it's vented, because these lamps get really hot, and because we're basically throwing a lot of light at the scope, and then especially for fluorescence, we're cutting down the light, right? We're putting a filter in front of it, and so we're throwing away most of the light. So we have to have these super, super, super intense bulbs that get super hot, and that's interestingly enough, crooked on this scope. I'll fix it later though. Fluorescence vented lamp. So the fluorescence must come along the bottom of the scope, and then I notice that there's this thing here that I can push or pull. Maybe not quite that, don't give it quite the shove I just gave it. On these scopes, we have to keep oiling these, so some get a little more stuck than others. This one's okay. This is the filter cube. This is where the filters are. So this must be a fluorescent scope. First of all, it has a big old lamp with vents. Then, oh look, filter cubes, excellent. And then the light, where does it go? Oh, well, the filter cube is gonna make the light go 90 degrees, right? So it's gonna make the light go up. And yes, indeed. Oh, look, there's an ocular. Okay, sorry, an objective. I always say those two wrong. But there's the nose piece. There's my objectives with the usual like colored coding and everything. The nose piece I can turn gently till it clicks. Excellent. Then I'm going to go up. Oh, look, obviously the stage. While I'm at it, this thing comes off. And you can put different, slides, round things, like different things your specimen may be on in here. So there's the stage. We found the stage. Very cool. And then the light is going to keep going through this. Well, no, wait, sorry. I'm doing it in front of you. I'm saying it wrong, sorry. So it's fluorescence. Let's follow the fluorescence path. So it's going to hit your specimen. Specimen's going to absorb the light. Specimen's going to fluoresce, hopefully. If it fluoresces, it will give you back light of a different wavelength, right? That's fluorescence. That light is going to go in all directions. But on this scope, we're going to pay attention to the light we're going to get to see the light that is captured through the objective. So the light that goes down is going to be captured by the objective. The objective on a fluorescent scope is also the condenser. Basically, there is no condenser. There's no coloring, the fluorescence part of the scope. So the light is going to go down, and then this is not necessarily obvious, but the light is basically going to go down, and then it's going to come back up to the oculars. So there's mirrors in there to direct the collected light out to the oculars, or camera. Yay, good, cool. Okay, so the light path for fluorescence is basically the bottom of this scope. It comes this way, goes up, comes down, up and through, or up and through. That's fluorescence. The top half of the scope is irrelevant. That's true of most fluorescent scopes. Is this an upright or an inverted scope, y'all? Do you remember?
Upright?
It's what? Inverted, exactly. The objectives are hidden down here, right? So the Meiji's was upright with the objectives out here where you can see them. They're kind of hidden under the stage. The reason for that is that the scope is actually for tissue culture, and so it has a huge working distance between this is the condenser. So anyway, you can put a flask on here. You can put big things on here, not just little things. Okay, so that was fluorescence. What about bright field? Every scope's going to have bright field that I've ever met anyway so far. So this one's a little tricky on this too, because honestly, I didn't even know it. When the rep assembled it, I was like, where's the bright field light? Like, do we not have bright field on these scopes? This is the bright field lamp. This little tiny square here is so small. It's the smallest I've ever seen. They're usually the big honking things like this. But so this is this tiny little bright, really bright bulb in there. It's just, for bright field, you need more of just a regular light bulb. So anyway, this is the light. And the bright field light, it's going to go through this thing, which you've never seen before. These are phase rings. I'm going to come back to them in a second. This is how we know it's a phase. So phase, P-H-A-S-E, rings, R-A-N-G-S. This, so a good companion to this, this stuff is actually the lecture, the first lecture of last semester, if you want to revisit it. And if you don't have it, I'll just write myself a note and I'll put it in all that stuff. I just realized I should put a link to it.
Do you have a picture printed of this scope by any chance?
Yes,
Oh,
not
cool.
with me, but I'll also
Great.
upload it during lab. So types of, because lecture one was the types of imaging modality, and so this one does phase, which you've never come across before because the Meiji's didn't have it. Anyway, going down, so the light is here, phase rings are here, and then, so phase, P-H-A-S-E, and then rings, R-I-N-G-S, like circles or rings. And then the condenser is this big old thing here. This is a fixed condenser, you can't color this scope. It's nice because it never goes out of color, honestly. And then the light is going to go down to the specimen through the objective, same objectives, up and out to the oculars or to here, to the camera. The phase rings, what are they? So you can actually pull this whole thing out and you can look at it. There are different rings. They're literally a circle. What you're doing with phase microscopy is you're blocking all the light except for a circle of light of a certain size. And then in the objectives, there's another phase ring. And between those two things, you get contrast from an unstained specimen. So you don't have to stain it, but you can still see it because of the magic of physics. The physics behind this really simple setup is super complicated. I'm glad to go into it, but most people don't know it, to be honest, to use it. Like, phase is really, really simple to use and really, really ridiculous to describe. But if you're interested, we can absolutely try and go into it. On the user side of things, you have to make sure that you have the right ring for the objective. So you have to match the ring size to the objective itself. That's why on this scope there's 3 different rings, because there's 4 objectives. So not a one-to-one match, clearly. And by the way, if I take this out, this is now just a regular bright field scope plus fluorescence. So it can do 3 things really. It can do bright field because the phase rings are out. It can, and I shouldn't really hold them in my hand. Normally, if I was doing that, I'd put it somewhere and wouldn't knock it over. So bright field, always fluorescence, and then you put this in, and now you've got a phase scope. There, if you are doing bright field, there is an iris diaphragm, a little favorite part on most scopes. And it's right here. If you're doing phase, try seeing what it does, basically. I'll leave your curiosity there. See if it makes much of a difference. It's a hint. Okay, so how do I know which phase ring to use for which objective? Well, physics has figured that out, and then you don't have to do a bunch of equations every time. Fortunately, you just have to check the front of these books. Where somebody from cohort 1, Dan very nicely wrote okay, put this on the book so that you can just have it sit there and look. So it just says which objective goes with which of these rings, basically. I'm trying to say the least amount necessary so I can get you started. So actually, lab A is basically sit at the scope and try to get a bright field image. Our libraries are over there over the sink. You can use any slide of your choosing. Pretty much all semester that's going to be the theme, is use anything you want to be looking at, look at it. And then there's a few times I'll ask you to make your own slides and stuff like that. But the subject of what you're looking at is entirely up to you, whatever you're interested in. So let me see. I guess I need to tell you how to turn on the lamp. There, let's do that. So it's just an on-off switch right here on the side. And then this is your rheostat. Do you see it get brighter, dimmer, brighter? Mm-hmm. So nice, because it's right here in front. And then this is your focus knob. So coarse focus is only for 4x, fine focus is for everything else. Same rules as the Meiji. That's true of every scope. Coarse focus, only 4x because you can't crash the 4x. Fine focus, everything else. And then while we're looking at this, I'm giving you kind of the tour. What is this big old thing? It's got an on-off switch, and I called it the lamp over here. This is actually, the bulb is back here, but this is some sort of gigantic lamp starter for this bulb. So I don't know why it's so huge, but the important thing is it has a counter of how many hours, because this is an arc lamp. So I'm going to quickly tell you about arc lamps. Although today what I really want you to do is get used to the scope. Step 1 is just figure out how to get an image in the oculars, right? And use it as bright field, play around with the phase rings, with the objectives. That's your lab A. I think lab B is step 2 is start using it as a digital scope. And then step 3 is turn on the fluorescence. But just since we're doing a quick overview, let me tell you about this lamp and why do we write the lamp hours in here. The bulbs last only a certain amount of hours. The manufacturers say something like 100 or 200 hours. The reality is they last 700, 800 hours, even 1,000 hours. But at some point the bulbs quit working. Again, the manufacturers are like, after 100 hours, it's not that good, and we have never found that to be, everybody checks, and you know, they're just trying to sell us bulbs. They're all like $300 a bulb, so you do want to keep track of the bulb hours, because as they get older, then we want to change them out and just know. And honestly, a lot of places with shared scopes will bill you by the bulb hours. That's how they know how to bill people. They are the one truly dangerous thing in microscopy currently. And newer lamps are LEDs because they have finally gotten bright enough to work for fluorescence. But there's still so many of these old arc lamps out because they don't really ever, you just need to change the bulb and they're good for, I don't know, 80 years or something. I'm not sure what the lifetime of the apparatus is, but it's like forever as far as I can tell. So arc lamps, the bulb is this weird tube, and there's gas, and there's like an arc that the electricity jumps across and so on. Anyway, it's also, again, fun physics if you want to dig into how arc lamps work. But from the point of view of safety, usually they just quit working. That's it. Once in a blue moon, it is possible for them to basically explode and leak the gas out into the room. The gas is usually mercury. That's toxic gas. So if you ever turn this on and hear a pop, then you immediately tell everybody and we leave for an hour. At that point, we just leave the building, and then I have to notify safety and security because it's toxic in a concentrated dose. As soon as it disperses, it's fine. But it is the one, again, you should know about safety. Now, I've worked in the field for like 30 years. I've yet to meet somebody who this has happened to, but it is, physics tells us this can happen, and it certainly must happen somewhere for us to all learn about this. So like I said, if you ever, apparently the pop's not, I've investigated this a lot, because I'm like, tell me exactly, now that I'm in charge, it's like, I want to know, and they're like, the pop's not going to be very loud, but it'll be noticeable, so it won't be like ear splitting, but it won't be something that you have to be like, what was that? It'll be pop, apparently, and something like that, and the bulb won't work also, so. The other important thing about arc lamps is to start, they generate a high voltage, and so they can sometimes fry the other electronics when doing that. So there's this hugely important thing that we turn this on first, and then we turn on anything else before. So always the arc lamp first. It's first on, last off. And then, just to make it more fun, once you turn them on, you have to leave them on for about an hour. Half an hour is okay, if really. But they prefer an hour, because the more you turn them on and off, you're going to shorten their life a lot. Lasers are like that too. Old gas lasers are, anyway. Solid state lasers are fine, but anything where it's a gas kind of based illumination system, you turn it on, you have to leave it on for an hour. And then when you turn it off, you have to leave it off for an hour. So it affects how you image, right? You're not going to be like, I need to image something for 5 minutes. You're going to be like, well, I'm going to accumulate all my imaging and then sit there for an hour. Because of this whole thing, what we do, especially in the beginning, is you guys don't turn them on. I turn these up, and I turn them off when you tell me you're gone, because sometimes, maybe someone else is coming. But just so you know, and today, let's see how let's see how quickly you guys get this part done. I'm very tempted to have you at least see the fluorescence in the digital part. It's up to you guys, but I'm willing to go ahead and, like, if you want to go step by step, like I just said, phase, digital, fluorescence, that's sort of the order. If you're like, no, give me the whole thing, I'll totally turn the bulb on for you and everything on. I'm going to just, for those of you who want to learn everything at once, I'll just show you the last bit. So the digital camera, there's a little switch on here where it won't show me anything because it's powered by the computer that it's attached to. The computer is a Mac. There's a little button in the back, then you hear the Mac starting up noise. And then these are the very old Macs that might take a while to start up, because I was trying a different one recently. Oh, it is going to take forever. Oh my gosh, okay. I'm so impatient. It used to, when I started imaging, to get a confocal image would take me like starting up 2 different operating systems and 30 minutes of processing it. It would take a couple of hours to get one image. And now I'm just very like, what? It was 30 seconds. How do I not have the image? Anyway, there's software in here, QCAP. So once that's on, you should toggle this switch to be able to see the green light. That means it's on. I will tell you that almost all cameras, so these are super sensitive CCD cameras, cold CCD cameras. They're for imaging. And they tend to cost like $5,000 to $500,000 depending on the camera. So they're ridiculously expensive. And ironically, they're almost always connected by this little cord that apparently from electronics standards is poorly shielded or something, I don't know. Basically these cords are terrible. And so if your camera is not working, it's this guy, it's this fault. And you will see that some labs will have the cord taped up because it has to be just so, or they'll have like contraptions with toothpicks to make sure the cord has just exactly this kind of bend, you know, or something like that. So I'm just telling you right now, troubleshooting, if the computer says, I don't see the scope, it's because of this cord. Okay, so you log in as microscopy student. There should be no password. Good, there's no password. And then you come over here and you open Q Imaging. You'll see that you also have Fiji on there. And you come to here. Do you want to hear the quick setup of the software, or should I just keep going? That's the last thing.
Yeah.
Should I tell you about the software? Okay, to do that, I'm going to move this somewhere right there. So there's nothing in there for me to show you, otherwise it would be much cooler. But the software, one of the reasons I like to start you guys on these scopes, the software is beautifully simple. And so up here you have, oh yeah, start recording, do not record. Just, you want to capture, yeah, just start, oh, every time they update it, they add more video options. What you want to do is snap an image, which in this case is not going to be very exciting. And then this is very, very sort of manual and old school. You have to, type in the name, whatever you want to call your images, usually the date, your initials, and anything else you want to add into it. Create a folder for yourself on here. If you don't know how, I'll show you. But create a folder. Don't trust that we won't erase this, although we won't, but I can't promise you that won't happen. So always take some images home with you. Most microscopy places don't have the computers enabled for Wi-Fi because they have PCs and they don't want to deal with viruses. I just made an executive decision like last week that, so go ahead and upload it to, if you've got a Dropbox or cloud or whatever. So where it says put a flash drive in you put a flash drive into the back here of these Macs, put your images on that. Take your images with you somehow, whether it's cloud or a flash drive, or preferably both, because it has happened a lot that students will have a flash drive in their backpack, it gets stolen, they lose all their images. This is why we technically should be cleaning these computers regularly, but we don't, just in case. So that's how you snap an image. How do you actually, deal with the image? Well, first of all, look, there's a histogram on here. Really should put a slide on, but if there were an image here, you would see. Let's create some sort of interference. That's not even showing up. Okay, anyway, you would see a histogram. If you don't see this little thing, you click on camera settings, it comes back. And what you need to know under camera settings is there's much more stuff than you actually need to use. What you really need to use under basic is just exposure, gain, and offset. Offset is where you set the black level. Exposure is how many seconds per snap. It should be anything you're actually really looking at. Let me get a slide.
Is it on the basis exposure and
Exposure, gain, and offset. So these three little slider bars are what you're going to spend a lot of time playing with. And you want to get to the point where you see something in the oculars and you instinctually know what you're going to do with it over here in the digital arena. So let's see how quickly I can get this in focus. I'm going to go to my 4X where everything's kind of in focus. Oh, something I didn't show you, this little bar here. That's why it wasn't showing. See, now it'll show up. So there's a little graphic here, but it basically is sending the light to the oculars this way, splitting it half oculars, half camera, all the light to the camera. And so if it's dark and you're not seeing anything, probably and then I need to put this on the right ring, and then get the sample over the light. I always go with oculars first just because I love oculars. Oh, also, you want this slider in to bright field. Yeah, all the way in. When you're doing bright field, if you see colors in there, the slider's in the wrong place. Okay, I found schmutz. Let's see if I can find, ooh, this slide is terrible. Oh my god, it's so bad. Okay, but it will do for the demo. So come over here. Looks better in here actually. Sometimes the focus is a little bit different. So see the histogram, maybe when you don't know where to start, every software for imaging will have an auto expose button. Go ahead and use it. So go ahead and auto expose. Yay. Let's see what it does. Not much. Oh my god, it's gonna take time. Are you kidding me? I'm so impatient. We're getting new Macs. They'll be quicker. Why are you taking so much time? So, but basically, I've shown you almost everything you need to know here. While it's doing that, we have to restart. It's not looking good. So exposure is how long of the snap, you know? Are you more exposure, more light, basically. Gain is a lot of different things on a lot of different scopes. In this case, more gain makes it brighter, but it does it with more noise. So play around with these. We can revisit this once you've played around, and offset will make things blacker. And it thinks this is a good exposure, really. Like, look at that histogram. So never trust auto expose. Never trust it. The computers do not know better. You think they would. It's simple. Like, maximize the histogram. Use the whole dynamic range. Again, back to the basics. Like, it's only got pixels in these gray levels. It's not spread out through its entire dynamic range. Watch me, so this is a few milliseconds. Watch me blast out the histogram. I don't know if you can see it from back there, but no, that's actually better. God, that's a terrible slide too. Now I don't know what it's doing. It's playing around and stuff. But anyway, what you want to do is exactly what I'm doing, is play with these three sliders. And there's just one more thing. Yeah, pretty much don't deal with other settings until later on. Watch if I play with the rheostat. See there, it's showing me something totally out of focus. You all should get much better images than this, but in fairness, the slide itself looks kind of like this. So, see, less light, or more light on here, basically. You spend a lot of time playing with this. You know, what if I take the phase ring out? Look, it's super bright now because the phase ring was cutting down on all the light. Actually, I can see it better now. Interesting. So that's a good example of, so this slide doesn't have a lot of contrast. So face, and it has a lot of corners, face kind of wrecks it. That's actually a legit thing. This is not a good slide for face. Some things will show up beautifully in face, this one not so well. But look at this histogram. It's saturated over here. Oh, was that auto exposed that I hit and it gave me a saturated histogram? What? Who's programming this? You are always better than auto expose. Use it as a starting point and then start playing with these bars after a while. See, that's much better. You'll have a good sense, or you know what you want to do is spend a lot of hours playing with these three controls basically, plus the scope itself, and then there will be a point where you're able to just sit down and just quickly make it perfect, because in real life you often don't have a lot of time to play around. So this is where you spend all your time taking bad images, good images, intermediate images, etc. Okay, good. Let's go to the scope. And any other questions you can just ask me while you're on the scope. So everybody pick a scope, and hopefully you figured out if you want to team up with anybody. You feel safe? Yes.